And joining me now is Hakan Akbas, who is a senior advisor at the Albright Stonebridge Group here in Turkey, and Ahmet Vefik Alp, who is a professor of architecture and city planning at the International Academy of Architecture. Gentlemen, welcome to you both here on Straight Talk. Hakan, let me start off with you. When you look at the Turkish construction sector, it's one of the leading sectors in the economy and one of the most dynamic ones in the world. Why has Turkey chosen to concentrate on this particular model in terms of the engine behind its growth?
Well, Turkey is a high growth country that needs to develop rapidly. So therefore, with construction within the fields of energy, healthcare, and transportation, it is started building these mega projects. So that creates obviously growth, that creates employment, and also that creates a number of projects which I think can lend itself to even further investments. So therefore, it's a must for Turkey.
Ahmet Vefik Alp,
yes.
At the end of next year, the first phase will be completed in what's believed to be one of the world's largest airports.
Yes.
In the coming years, we're going to have a waterway linking the Black Sea, a second waterway linking the Black Sea and the Marmara Sea. Even our president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has called it a crazy one, the crazy project. These massive infrastructure projects must have some sort of environmental impact.
That's right. Well, today, one of the major problems of the mankind is those growing cities beyond the control. There are about 20 mega cities. Istanbul is one of them, which grow in a very rapid pace, and that brings a lot of problems, not only environmental but health problems, population problems, traffic, urban problems, and so on.
Do you think the government has sort of considered this to the degree it needs to be before planning these projects?
Well, my concern basically is that some of the projects that our government has done were not being properly located. The project is very nice. It's a very distinctive piece of engineering, but the localization is not proper. In general, the projects you have mentioned and the other ones where I've been also part, such as the Bosphorus tubes, the first one and the second one, and there will be another one coming, the third tube, which will be 3 levels. Mm-hmm. That's also one of my projects when I was a candidate for the mayorship of the Greater Istanbul. But our major concern as urban planners for Istanbul was to grow Istanbul to the north. Because as we know, Istanbul has been totally built from Tekirdağ to Gebze.
So let's put that into perspective, on a west-east axis
yes,
rather than a north-south axis.
On the south shore. So we've been hoping that the northern forest and green areas will remain intact to establish a nice ecological balance.
Hakan Akbas, let me ask you, when you look at these mega projects, a lot of them, these consortiums, they have to go onto the international financial markets to secure billions of dollars. With this current state of the Turkish economy, the Turkish lira weakening against most foreign currencies, inflation on the rise, is this model sort of sustainable?
Well, Turkey does have a rather successful track record of taking these projects on through public-private partnerships and delivering them. Therefore, with this track record, that should not be a big issue. And while having said that, it is true that both US and EU, ECB, have started to tightening up. So with a tighter monetary environment, obviously these projects, especially in emerging markets like Turkey, there will be, without any doubt, more scrutiny around them. But again, because of our track record, and because Turkey will be attracting not just local construction companies, but also international players into these major mega projects, most of these global players will likely come with their own financing capacity. So I don't see this as a problem, but I think that the structure of these public-private partnerships will also play a key role.
Turkey is a successful player when it comes to the build, operate, transfer model. What happens when you look at President Erdogan ready to assume a role that has extended powers? Do you think this will sort of boost investor confidence when it comes to foreign direct investment?
It certainly should, because with the presidency, the design intention is to actually help big investors to come in and invest and finance these mega projects. Because previously there has been a lot of complaints from the global investors that we deal with about this bureaucracy and how it is slowing things down and how decision making has been fragmented. With this whole presidency, especially considering the presidency will have a dedicated agency for investments, that will surely help the execution side. But also under President Erdogan in the last 16 years, Turkey has attracted record amounts of FDI inflows. So that will also feed into the successful execution and financing of these future mega projects.
Ahmet Vefik Alp, you were not too happy about the urbanization plan of Istanbul. That rate is very high in Turkey, but when you compare this urbanization in other countries, a lot of it is actually sort of, it's either been stunted by policy or it's proceeded without a government plan. Is there a method to the madness here in Turkey?
Well, one major issue, I believe, is to bring all the large mega projects to Istanbul. Why not to locate some of the projects in other cities or point of attraction? For example, I would like to give one example which was unsuccessful, the Formula One system, which has been on the Anatolian side.
But that's not the Turkish government's fault, but rather the high demands of the organizers.
That's right, but that's what I am trying to say. The locality, the situation was not correct. At that time, I was, I believe, the chief advisor of the Prime Minister with Mr. Ecevit, and I proposed that the Formula One piste and this whole facility should be located in Selçuk Kuşadası, where there is sea, tourism, hotel, history, and a big, very large area, which is the delta of the Menderes River. But we shouldn't allow new habitation blocks or new residential, whatever, to come around them and fill all the area and the green. The North Airport, the third North Bridge and the highway, it's fine, but let's not allow any new urban development in this area. Let's them stay in the green. That's okay with me.
Hakan Akbas, is the government using these mega infrastructure projects as an extension of its political power and influence on society?
Definitely, there is a domestic angle and there is a foreign policy angle. On a domestic angle, if you look at these mega projects, you can group them in transportation, energy, and healthcare. Especially healthcare has been one of the drivers of AK Parti's success in the last 14 elections. Therefore, that does pay off at the polls. But at the same time, if you start, for example, attracting foreign investments, especially through these tender-driven projects, obviously you create bilateral economic ties with Germany, with China, with US. That does give you the motivation bilaterally to be on better terms when it comes to foreign policy, and also you can use it as, in some cases, as a way to get what you want on the diplomacy side.
But I have to remind you that the knife actually can cut both ways too when it comes to foreign policy and developing domestically. Ahmet Vefik Alp, Hakan Akbas, thank you very much for joining me here on Straight Talk.